Good evening to all of the black hearts, misfits, outcasts, and broken things. Tonight I am coming to you with my film review for the movie 1917 from Universal Pictures. This film is directed by Sam Mendes. It is written by Sam Mendes and Kristy Wilson-Cairns. Inspired by and dedicated to the actual stories of Mendes' grandfather, Alfred Mendes, who served in the 1st Rifle Brigade for 2 years in Flanders, Belgium during World War I. The cinematography is by the great Roger Deakins. The flawless editing of the film's one-shot motif is done by Lee Smith, scored by the great Thomas Newman, and starring George MacKay and Dean Charles Chapman, with supporting performances by Benedict Cumberbatch, Mark Strong, Richard Madden, Colin Firth, and Claire Duburcq. So, where to begin with this? I guess the best place to begin with this is first and foremost the most beautifully filmed movie I've seen this year. It's stunning, it's visceral, it draws you in, keeps the tension, and just it's off to the races from the word go. Do not be surprised if this film wins Best Picture. Don't be surprised if this film cleans up at the Oscars this year. It is, quite simply put, a masterpiece, which is not a word that I throw around lightly. It is filmmaking at its finest. The acting from George MacKay and Dean Charles Chapman is amazing. They're two young actors. George MacKay, I recognized his face in the advertising. I didn't really know his name. Dean Charles Chapman is new to me. Obviously, Benedict Cumberbatch, Mark Strong, Richard Madden, Colin Firth are all superstars. Claire Duburcq is the one woman in the movie, and she doesn't get any billing, but she's got kind of an important role, and she's in it for just about as much as any of the others, which is a little disappointing, but she's fantastic when she shows up. She plays a French villager that he runs into at one point, and she's great. She provides a real kind of emotional respite at a critical point in the movie. If you've seen any of the advertising, there's no surprises with the story. The basic premise is it's the British fighting the Germans in World War I. They're in France, which, if you know anything about the history, is they basically turned the killing of human beings into a science over the course of World War I, into how can they kill as many people as possible. And the general theory, which is stated at one point during the movie, is that the winner of the war is going to be the last man standing. And this film really draws you in. It really does a good job of making you feel what these men are going through as they have to carry a message from one set of trenches to another set of trenches to stop this other unit from attacking the German line, because the Germans have set a trap and are going to kill 1,600 Englishmen, including Dean Charles Chapman's character's older brother, who is played by Richard Madden. So it's harrowing, it's gut-wrenching, and it hit really close to home for me. Breaking character a little bit, I'm a veteran. I served 2 tours in Iraq. I spent 8 years in the United States Army. I saw friends get maimed. I had friends die. And it's hard. And when you are in combat and you're experiencing this stuff, obviously what I went through was nothing like what World War I and II were like, but it's... a lot of the feelings are the same, and this film does a really good job of capturing those feelings, capturing those emotions. The tension at one point when they are going into an abandoned German bunker, I remember feeling that exact tension. Like, it was the same exact feeling, experiencing them going into this bunker as I felt on operations where we had to go into Iraqi villages, go into Iraqi homes. And it's something that I've never seen a war film do before in such a successful way. I think this film is one that needs to be experienced in theaters. Experience this on the biggest screen possible. Don't worry about, what the noise and all of that. It's, I mean, there's a lot of concerns, I understand, with seeing a movie like this in theaters, but it is worth it. And seeing this film in particular, I'm a advocate for always seeing a film the way the director intended. This film in particular is done a certain way with the one-shot motif and the way it's filmed throughout, that if you don't see it in theater, you are doing yourself a disservice. If you enjoy films, if you enjoy movies, go see this in IMAX if you can. If you can't see it in, Dolby Digital or AMC Prime or whatever you have around you that you can. I will say that if you, like me, are a combat veteran, this may trigger PTSD stuff for you. There's a moment in particular where something happens that I managed to keep myself under control, but it was a moment that almost became an issue for me. So I don't want to spoil anything, but it's a thing. It's everything about this movie, start to finish, is just it's a masterclass on all fronts. Everybody in every position, everything that was done with this film is just spectacular. It's not my favorite film that I've seen this year, but it's the best film that I've seen this year. And in a year with, so many great contenders, that's really saying something. This has been a great year for film, and this is easily held up as the best picture. So, just... that's just a fact. My favorite film this year was Avengers Endgame, but this was it was so much better than that from a pure, filmmaking standpoint. when you pair that with the emotional resonance of Sam Mendes' personal connection and story with this, he came out tonight during the premiere and he talked about his grandfather and prying stories of World War I out of his grandfather and some of his grandfather's PTSD related behaviors, which I think may have enhanced it for me a little bit, but at the same time, when you understand that stuff, I think you'll really have an appreciation for where he's coming from with this story. So, like I said, see it in theaters, see it with friends, bring people, bring a group, experience this, learn more about World War I. They called it the war to end all wars, but it's kind of forgotten. 2018 marked 100 years since the end of World War I, and less than 30 years later, we had a second one that was so much more horrifying than the first that we kind of forget to talk about it. But I recommend learning about it. I strongly recommend checking out the Hardcore History podcast. Did a series called Blueprint for Armageddon, which was 5 episodes long, roughly 10-12 hours of audio, I think, just delving into the war in Europe. And World War I was so much more than just the war in Europe, but he really talks about the causes of it and everything that kind of went there. So yeah, before I get emotional thinking about it again, because there's a particular moment at the end that really struck me and made me think about some of the friends that I lost, particularly my last tour in Iraq. We lost 3 promising soldiers, good soldiers, Corporal Zach Nordemeyer, Mike Main, and Mike Alleman, who were all good at their jobs, and Alleman in particular was a good friend of mine, and all 3 were killed in action during a raid, and there was a moment that really made me remember them and stop and just think about them, which is something that I do every day, but I've never had a movie bring that out. So it's powerful, it's important, and I highly, highly recommend going to see it when it comes out. It releases officially on Christmas Day. So go see it. Let me know in the comments below what you think. I understand war is a divisive issue. Iraq is a divisive issue, so please don't pop into the comments with thank you for your service stuff. Please don't pop into the comments with criticisms of the war. Keep it civil, keep it polite. Let's try and stay focused on the film. I'd like to know what your thoughts on the film are, and if you need to discuss further, follow me on Twitter at JoshuaNeverJosh. My DMs are open. Message me through the YouTube channel. That's fine. I'm more than happy to talk about the stuff outside of the context of this video, but for the discussion in the comments below, let's try and keep it focused on that, because otherwise it'd be easy to get derailed. And let me know what you think. Did you like it? Did you see what I liked? Do you understand kind of what they were doing here? And as always, keep it black, but not too black.